Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. My name is Madison Bennett. I'm here with Roger Bair. And we are here.
Good morning. Right. Hi, Maddie.
Hi, Roger.
What are we here? What are we here to talk about?
We're here to give you tips on living a happy, healthy, and wealthy retirement.
You look like you're doing real well. I don't know if you're retired, but where are you in Venice?
I'm in Venice, Italy. Yes.
In Venice, Italy. Yeah, gotcha.
Yes.
And I'm not sure where I am. some place. I was going to do a beach scene behind me, but it's a chilly March day here in Westminster, so the beach scene didn't seem to fit.
Yes, that one's a lot more fitting today.
Thank you.
I'm still going to daydream and hope to be in sunny Venice.
Be in Venice, yeah, definitely, or someplace sunny.
Yes.
Although I guess it's kind of sunny today, but just chilly.
It is.
So we gathered to talk about retirement and try to. Was thinking about it. You know, how do you balance in retirement? How do you stay healthy? We often talk about the financial aspect of retirement, but I think one of the things that you and I addressed in preparing for the webinar is that we need to maybe give some credence to or address issues on the qualitative side of retirement.
It's a huge part of it, and you kind of just brush over it. You just focus so much on the numbers and am I going to have enough money? But there's so many other parts to it that factor in.
Yeah, or it's the lowest rate. You know, that's so good. Well, good. That's a good intro. Let's take a look at our slides here.
All right. All right.
Happy, healthy, and wealthy.
Let's emphasis on all three of those.
On all three of those. Yeah.
So if you think about it, retirement really could make up more than 30% of your lifespan. You're spending about 20% of it in school, 40% working, and about 30% you'll be retired. So what's that going to look like? Are you just going to sit stationary after working and moving for most of your life? Or are you going to consider working longer? Even maybe going to part-time, doing something that you enjoy more rather than your full-time job? Or are you going to slowly back off and transition into retirement? And age 65 is really an outdated concept of when you should retire, really that golden age. And you may think, why was 65 even chosen in the first place? And many things like Medicare, that's the age that you're eligible for Medicare. You can begin to collect Social Security at that time. Many of your pensions, that's sort of your full retirement age for those. But many people, like we said, that's going to be more than 30% of your lifespan. So why stop at 65 if you still enjoy what you do? Or if there's something else that you could do, why not do that rather than just completely stop work altogether? So besides just the working part of retirement and whether you're going to continue to work a little bit or cut back altogether, prioritize traveling if that's always been on your bucket list. Make those dreams come true. Whether that be that golden vacation that you've always wanted to take, or to revisit a place that you went and loved so much. Make those dreams a reality. And then the next thing is spend your retirement or spend your savings safely. So that you have to sort of reverse your way of thinking, because the whole time you're working, you have this mindset of I need to save, I need to put money in my retirement accounts. And then that does a complete 180 once you retire. You need to start spending that. That's sort of your income for many people. So start to think about that reverse way of thinking of spending your savings. And then, like I mentioned earlier, keep a schedule and a structure. That way you have some sort of structure to do about your day, and you're not just waking up unsure of what the day is going to look like. And that really will provide you with a better mindset for retirement and give you more purpose throughout your day.
Right, you need challenges. I mean,
Exactly.
The thing about the age 65 is in 1935 that was selected because most folks didn't live that long.
Right.
And so today, most people live into their 80s. So, as you said, is it wise for us to retire? Is it feasible? Is it practical for us to retire in our 60s when we're going to live into our 80s?
Right.
So, and the questions you're asking is, okay, if you do, and it's this amount of your life, how do you structure that? How do you stay active and healthy and happy? And that's what we wanted to talk about today. Yeah. So we're planners, financial planners, and so we're into planning. I think the important dimension of your retirement plan is that you begin to think about it early. And we have here meet with an advisor early and often. And your advisor, from a financial point of view, can help you with the math, but it's also an outsider, if you will, a third party that you can consult with and talk about, making sure your plan is complete, that you're confident that your goals can be achieved, and can facilitate talking to other family members and loved ones about your plans, not only the timing of retirement, but where you're going to be. And as Maddie said, what are you going to be doing? So I think you need, at least for as far as we are concerned, and of course this is the business that we're in, but we think that a healthy, complete retirement plan implies that you have some outside assistance, need some balance and flexibility. And you need to be realistic. The one piece of realism that strikes me is that sometimes folks say, well, if I'm retired, every day is a vacation. Well, really, no. Yeah, every day, it's not vacation 100% of the time, unless you're extremely wealthy. There are going to be days when you're kind of kicking around. How will you stay, as you say? Is there some structure? Can you stay organized? Will you continue to have challenges in your life, which we think are very important?
Right. Helps keep you sharp and keep that structure in your life to continue on even longer. So with that, you have to consider what your quality of life is going to be like in retirement. So location is definitely a huge part of that. So do you have access to healthcare and good doctors and hospitals or any specialties that you need? What's your proximity to your family and friends? Because those are such huge parts of life, and being happy is relationships. And so if you're isolated because you're in a cool place, but you're not close to family and friends, that could be a downside. And what's your proximity to cool attractions that you prioritize? Are you a beach person? Do you like to sit by the river or float in a tube down a river? Do you like to sit by a lake? Or would you rather be up in the mountains with Roger? Do you want to be close to cities with cool restaurants and museums and attractions? And are you close to airports? Do you like to travel a lot? As well as mass transit? Because there is going to be a point where you're not able to drive. So are you close to are you able to get around on public transportation, or again, proximity to friends and family who are able to take you places? So those are kind of all factors to consider on where you want to retire.
Well, and they're heavily qualitative. As
Mhm.
when we ordinarily talk about retirement, we say, okay, move to the lowest cost of living place, move to the place that has the lowest tax rate. Well, and what we're saying is, hey, wait a minute. There are these huge qualitative factors that should, not may, should influence
Mhm.
where you retire, maybe even when you retire.
Right.
And so I was thinking about this last evening. It's kind of like when I was helping my kids choose where to go to school, where to go to college. Was it
Right.
rural? Was it urban? Is it going to be near some destination? What are your priorities? Is it absolutely important you be near family and friends? Do you have healthcare issues, or do you have concerns about them? And all of these will help you prioritize where you ultimately end up.
Right. Mhm. So along with the qualitative side of where you end up, like Roger mentioned, the quantitative side is very important as well. And that's kind of what we focus on a lot. So states that are tax efficient, have low sales or income tax, have good healthcare, hospitals, what's the cost of living like, the crime rate, as well as the weather. So all of these you kind of have to factor in, and may look good on paper, but you also want to consider what your best place to retire is. So is being somewhere warm important to you? Is being in a very safe area important to you? So all of these things, here's a list of states that kind of have good options in each of these areas, as well as retirementliving.com is a good website where you can go and look at all the different quantitative sides of each state.
And keep in mind that you definitely might come to a different conclusion about some of these variables. As an example, today you can get quality health care generally in any large metropolitan area. So you don't need to be in Maryland, or Minnesota, or near the Cleveland Clinic, which didn't even make the list, to get great quality health care. And likewise, cost of living. At the moment, the cost of living mecca is in the upper Midwest of the United States. But you could certainly find places in Central Florida, away from the beach, that are inexpensive, that have low crime rates, that certainly are managed in terms of state and local taxes. So it's important to step back and say, hey, what's important to us? The other piece is, and this gets at the visit part, I have had several clients in my career who talked about wanting to move to live in Texas. In one case, it was West Texas. In another case, it was Virginia. And one of my reactions to that was, well, if you're going to retire there, maybe you should visit. Maybe you should vacation there. The person who was going to move back to West Texas went to college there. And what he and his family found was West Texas had changed since he went to college there, and he had changed. His priorities were different. They were much different. Now he was going into retirement as opposed to being a college student.
Mhm.
So definitely you're going to need to do some research, and I think it implies that you travel around a bit and find out where you want to be.
Mhm. Right. And even if you're really strongly considering a place and you want to kind of test it out, consider renting for a little bit in that area instead of buying outright.
Mhm.
So emphasis on a healthy lifestyle. So it's better to stay proactive than reactive. So active is an attitude. It's better to make things happen than rather let things happen to you. So prioritize a healthy diet, make time for exercise, factor that into your structure and routine in retirement. Really emphasize and prioritize those annual doctor checkups and appointments. I know many people may avoid the doctor at all costs, but it's very, very important that you do those annual checkups to prevent anything or catch anything early. And you want to strive for that continued independence, that you don't need anybody, and you don't become a burden on anybody else too early.
So preventive medicine works, and I smile because I'm very much into it, and there's a member of my family who will go unmentioned who is not into it. And the facts are absolutely clear. Preventive medicine works. You need to get to your checkups. I think the thing, Nettie, I would mention about this slide is the first bullet. What I've noticed is, as members of my immediate family have aged, they take a more and more passive attitude in response to change, in response to technology. And what that leads to is a decreased ability to be independent. So what I would say is, exactly as we have here, you've got to be you've got to walk into problems. You have to look to proactively solve problems. They may indeed be less easily solved as you age, because you certainly may be level. You certainly will calculate issues, solve issues less quickly. But that is not the point. The point is that you need to have an active, proactive, aggressive mental attitude so that you can be as independent as possible.
So I really like this slide. Make friends with your future self. So visualize what your day-to-day life is going to look like and what your hobbies are, what you're going to prioritize in retirement. So stay active, like we mentioned, both physically and mentally, whether that be reading books, doing crossword puzzles, playing card games with friends. It's important to stay social as well. If you do move to a new place, and you want to meet new people, join groups or book clubs or anything like that. Consider part-time work, like we mentioned. That's a good way to still add structure to your day, as well as you're adding that extra income in retirement, which is never a bad thing. So you can, whether you prioritize relationships that you weren't able to really focus on when you were still working because you were too busy or something like that. It's very good to still challenge yourself in retirement, whether that be making goals for yourself, working still, to keep your brain sharp and your body sharp. Are you gonna volunteer, get more involved in your community? And like we mentioned, are you gonna travel? Go to different places, see the world, because you now have the time and money to, now that you are retired.
Right. I like this slide a lot as well. The other thing, and I think I mentioned this to you before, is that if we had these blocks today, block would be job and everything else would be around it.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's like the sources of income in retirement. The sources of income are various in retirement. You might have a pension, you might have Social Security, and certainly income from investments and perhaps part-time work. Well, this looks the same, but from a qualitative point of view. That is, you might have many more things going on in retirement, and this begins to talk about addressing with yourself, making friends with your future self, addressing those qualitative issues you encounter on a daily basis so you can continue to thrive.
Mhm. Exactly.
All right, this is an easy one. I'll kick this off. So this is much that we talk about. Now we're moving into the kind of the quantitative aspects of retirement, and the piece that I just mentioned is, I think, important, and it does come with a little bit of anxiety because in your working life, your income comes from essentially one source, or if you're dual income family, from two sources. Well, in retirement, you're going to have various sources of income, and getting those modulated can take a little bit of time, and that's part of the transition that you're going to experience in retirement. The first question is interesting because what you do for basic living expenses is consider how much money you need. And we're not talking about a budget here. We're just talking about a list of expenses that you need to defray to maintain your current standard of living. And then the last bullet is vitally important. Do not forget. Now, of course, inflation is in the headlines today. We have a bout of inflation, the highest inflation since the 80s. I think it will pass, but it does help remind us that any level of inflation will erode purchasing power of your income in retirement. And if you live 30% of your life in retirement, that's a long time over which your money will have to keep pace with inflation. So choosing when to start Social Security is an important consideration.
Definitely. So don't overlook taxes. Many people don't really think about taxes or factor it in when it comes to retirement. However, it's a very, very crucial factor. So there's different types of tax to consider in retirement. There's income tax, based upon which state that you live in, sales tax, local property tax, inheritance tax, estate tax. There's also 3 tax buckets that you really fund over the course of your working life. There's that tax deferred, which is that pre-tax retirement bucket. So any money that you have in traditional IRAs, 401ks, all of that. Then there's that taxable bucket, which are in brokerage accounts. That's where you put money away, and when you take it out, you don't necessarily have to pay taxes on the whole thing. You really just have to pay taxes on any gains in the account. And then there's that really most desirable tax bucket, which is that tax-free or after-tax bucket. So this is any money in Roth IRAs, Roth 401ks, all of that. So that's our biggest emphasis bucket that we would prioritize. So work with your advisor to develop a tax efficient strategy, whether that be during your working life, you're putting money into that Roth after tax bucket, if you're able to. Also consider Roth conversions. So there's a lot that has to go into this to be able to do a Roth conversion. So it's very important that you don't just do it on your own and you work with a CPA or your advisor. Consider it both before retirement and after retirement. So if you're not able to if your income is too high, you're not able to directly put into a Roth IRA, there is a way to get money into that Roth account by a conversion, which is essentially moving money from those pre-tax retirement accounts to the post-tax Roth accounts and paying taxes in the year that you do it. Additional benefits to that after-tax bucket is it grows tax-free. There are no required minimum distributions for those like there are for the pre-tax retirement accounts. Whoever inherits that account will not have to pay taxes on that account either. So it just allows you to better control your taxable income in retirement. However, another way to control your taxable income in retirement, if you don't have a large amount of post-tax accounts, is what is called a qualified charitable distribution. So if you are charitably inclined, a way to reduce your required minimum distribution that you have to take out at a certain age is giving money directly from your IRA to a charity, and neither you or the charity have to pay taxes on that money.
So the thing I would say, Nettie, just to quickly add, because that's summary, we're in tax time, so we're preparing taxes, but tax prep and tax planning are different. Tax prep is the end of the process, where tax planning is, as you're addressing here, we need to come up with tax strategies to manage our tax effects throughout the year. Tax prep is really, as I say, the end of the process. Don't be confused about it. We should be planning to minimize our tax expenses, which is what taxes are, the tax expense, all year long. Not be obsessed by them, but do some planning to minimize them.
Mm-hmm. So don't forget to make a late retirement plan. So essentially what you want to do down the road. So do you want to continue to age in your home, age in place, have help come in that way? Do you plan to move to a continuing care retirement community while you're healthy and age there? Are you going to live with your family and have your family take care of you? Do you have long-term care insurance that will help pay for some of the costs of the continuing care community or in-home help? Are you going to be dependent on your own assets to really pay for any of these costs? It's very important that you discuss this with your family while you're healthy and able to clearly think through this plan rather than down the road and have them make the choice for you. So just really talk through these options and see what the best one is and what you want to do.
Right, so we really, our webinar today is contemplating your early retirement plan, how to get organized and thrive in early retirement, which we hope lasts for decades. But we all have to acknowledge the fact that eventually you get old and you need additional assistance. You may not be as independent, and that is your late retirement plan. It's not about nursing home. We used to call it a long-term care plan or a nursing home plan. That's not what it is. This is a plan which contemplates the realization of aging and how are you going to continue to thrive as long as you can, near family and friends, get the care you need, and be as independent as possible for as long as you can.
Mm-hmm.
Well, of course, the estate, the long-term care plan, or the late retirement plan. See, that's even a Freudian slip, isn't it? And then the end is the estate plan. That is, what did Steve Covey say? Begin with the end in mind. And so just a quick reminder that you do need to organize your estate so it can be passed to your heirs as quickly, as efficiently, and with the least amount of administrative complication as possible. And so you've got three primary documents: your will, your financial power of attorney, and your advance directive, which should be part of your estate plan. But really the core of the plan are your beneficiary designations and the way that your assets are titled. If beneficiary designations are in order and your assets are jointly titled, if you have a spouse or significant other, then most of the work is done. The will then is really responsible or needs to designate the disposition of our assets that don't flow otherwise, that is from beneficiary designations or titling.
Mm-hmm. And it's very important to talk with your family about your wishes for if they are going to receive a large amount of money or even any money at all, and what your intentions are for them. As well as it's good to pass this on to them during your lifetime so you can see the benefit that it brings to them while you're still alive and able to see the joy it brings to them. It's also, there's this point here at the end, break the no talk rule. So many people don't want to talk about money. It could hurt our relationship. They don't need to know how much I have.
Or death, or don't talk, let's not talk about death, right?
Right.
We're a death denying society. So we need to try as hard as we can to talk about these decisions so that they're not left to the end, that there is some organization in effect. And as a parent, do we want to slough off a bunch of difficult decisions and administrative burden on our kids or on our heirs? And the answer is, well, no. And that is not necessary. You just need to do a little planning and have a talk with your family, Maddie. Absolutely.
Mm-hmm. All right. So I know we covered a lot today, but here's just an overall summary of everything that we went over. So just know that your best years may be yet to come. You think maybe your younger years are your best, but in retirement, you have that money that you worked so hard to save for. Go out and enjoy it and spend it and reap the benefits of it. Know the importance of creating a complete retirement plan. So work with your advisor to come up with what you need. So that way going into retirement, you have that peace of mind that you have thought everything out. Consider the quality of life of where you go to retire. So your proximity to important things in your life. So on the quantitative side, research the best places to retire based on many factors that are important to you. Know the benefit of a healthy lifestyle so that you can live a long, healthy life with your friends and family. Make friends with your future self. Visualize what your day-to-day is going to be like in retirement and what goals and priorities that you're going to emphasize. Consider your retirement income, what that's going to look like, whether it's going to be just your investments or in Social Security, or if you have pension income and other income like that. So work with your advisor to consider your taxes in retirement and how that's going to play into your overall plan. Talk with your friends and family about your late retirement plan and have a solid plan there before that time actually comes. And work with your advisor and attorney to develop a complete estate plan so that your wealth can be passed on to the next generation in the most efficient, best way possible. So
great summary. Yeah, thank you. And Maddie, I would just emphasize that pre-retirees need to identify their priorities. What's important to you? Where do you want to live? Are taxes the most important thing to you? Well, okay, you can find that out. But you certainly may have various priorities or even competing priorities. And we would encourage you to weigh them carefully and consult with your advisor. Again, that's what we do, but consult with your advisor early and often to come up with a complete, holistic retirement plan.
So thank you all for joining us today. We hope you have found this beneficial. And if you have any questions at all, feel free to email us at info@financialconsulate.com. And thank you again, Roger, and take care.